Hi, Rebecca Ryan here from Stir the Pot Cooking Supplies. Today we're outside. Thank you for joining me. It's a gorgeous sunny day, and it's really the first day that we've actually been able to be outside and do some gardening in a comfortable climate. We're in Ontario, Canada, and this is the first year that Canada has legalized growing. And I'm about ready to show you how to take a cutting from an existing cannabis plant and create an exact duplicate. So please join me. I'll show you the few steps that we're going to take to grow a cannabis garden from existing mother plants. Thanks for joining me in my back garden today. I have to tell you, it feels incredible to finally be able to be outside doing things in the fresh air and the sunlight. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit of a recap so you'll know where we left off. At the end of January, we started some seed and sprouted this. And once we got a taproot showing, we put that little sapling into some earth and grew it and continued to grow it and continued to grow it for about 3 months. So you see the size of the plant that we're working from now. And we've been performing some special gardening techniques to crop the plant to produce this kind of a structure, more of a globe shape versus a tall cone shape that many people are used to seeing. So it's from this plant. This would be considered a mother plant at this point. It's from this plant that we will be taking cuttings and encouraging those cuttings to root. And once we get those cuttings to root, they will be an exact duplicate of the mother plant. So on this plant, we've probably got about 50 to 75 viable plant stalks that we can take and grow cuttings from. So what's in front of me now is the cloning rig that we put together using a tote and some aquarium aerating stones and pump. So we'll put the link to that previous video in the video here, and you can link back to it if you want to review. But anyways, we've got 20 liters of water in this with the appropriate starting nutrients mixed proportionately as per the directions, and everything has been measured for a pH or adjusted pH to 6. So we have that nutrient rich water in place, and with the aerating stones, what's going to happen once we get the cuttings in their place is the aerating stones are going to produce quite a bubbling action. And this bubbling action, when those bubbles pop, they're going to be sending moisture directly to the roots and encouraging really good root formation. Now, it's really important to get a good root structure in your plants, because then from a good root structure you can grow a good stalk structure, and from a good stalk structure you can grow plants that can support multiple pounds of flower by the time we're at the end. And we're ready to harvest. So that's why we would take the initiatives that we're taking now to ensure that each plant is producing and we're going to capture a good yield. So without any further ado, let me get to the point where we're actually taking a cutting. Okay, so just gonna go in here. I'm cutting this right at the stalk, a little node here. And from here, I'm now going to take these leaves and you're going to see that right where I took those leaves off, there looks like there's little leaves getting ready to come, and I'm just going to cut on an angle sharply right between those structures. There we go. So you can see we've got an angle here. And from that, we're going to go into a little bit of water. And we just really want to wet the stalk. And from there, into some rooting hormone. Now, the rooting hormone that we're using is a number 2, and that's because we're not dealing with very woody stalks. These are pretty fresh green stalks yet. And what the rooting hormone does is it just encourages root growth to come. Now, I've got some rock wool plugs here that have been soaked in the same nutrients-dense water. And I'm just going to put that in. And we want a little bit of that root to show at the bottom. So there we go. That's what you're looking for. Here we are back with the little stem in its rooting hole in our planting tray. And I just want to make note here that we've marked each hole in the planting tray with a letter and a number. And it would be at this point that you would take a notebook or make a log on your phone to note which cutting is where. So this particular strain of cannabis is a CBD strain called CD1, and it's a high percentage CBD, which does not produce any psychoactivity, and just trace amounts of THC. I am a medical cannabis user, and as such, I grow a well-rounded garden. So I'm always growing many different strains, hybrids, looking for the right mix to add to my medicine chest. At any rate, with these clones, we'll be planting our garden, and we're scheduled to put that in the ground the last week in May. And that'll run all the way through until pretty close to Thanksgiving, if all goes well. And then we'll be harvesting and trimming and curing. So this is just the beginning stages of propagating cannabis. And I know that you've gotten used to me talking about cooking with cannabis. And I will get there, but it's really important that you see all the steps along the way, because we can't cook with it if we don't grow it. So back to the techniques at hand here. You'll notice that each of the leaves have been trimmed, and what we've done is we've taken the tips of the leaves off. And I know this is so painful for new growers, but it's a necessity to do. What we want to do is force this little sapling to produce roots. And if we left her leaves in full foliage, she would try to grow more leaves. And that's not what we want at this point. We want her to grow a nice, healthy root system. So what we'll do now is we'll fill the rest of this planting tray up with another 49 stalks, just as we've done here. Then over top of that goes the plastic dome. And right now we've got it closed because we want to capture all of the moisture. Everything's going to be in 100% humidity in short order. So with that said, the last thing to do is plug in your pump, and that's going to start aerating the bottom of the plugs and keep the roots that are going to grow in the exact right environment to thrive. So in about 2 weeks' time, we'll come back to hopefully really nice root structures formed. So join me at that point, and I'll do a small follow-up video so that you can see what's happened.